with this ancient land of ours, which we call India. A lot of you might not know that we are a biotic hotspot of planet Earth. The third planet from the Sun, which is the only planet that we know as of now that hosts the phenomena of life. And within that planet, the most prolific hotspot of life itself is the land of the tiger called India. So, what makes this land so special? About 50 million years ago, the Indian plate was a part of a much larger continental mass. And then the Indian plate started moving towards the Eurasian plate. And 50 million years ago, when the Indian plate collided against the Eurasian plate, it created a unique geological phenomena, and it created multiple land bridges. So the African plate, the Malayan plate, the Eurasian plate, and the Indian plate came together, fusing a phenomena on planet Earth, which is still happening, and which gave rise to the Himalayas, which are the planet's youngest fold mountains, which are still rising. So this unique phenomena created a haven for life. How? In India, we have species which range from all across the world. For example, the antelopes, the cheetah, they walked the leopard, they walked the land bridge from Africa all the way across Turkey, southern Europe, and eventually came to India. And then you have species like the Malayan species, the elephant, the tiger. The tiger originated somewhere in China, southern China, and after which it traversed through the Malayan land bridge to reach India. Similarly, you have the Eurasian species like wolves, like bears, which traveled from the Eurasian landmass all the way to India. So India became a confluence of species from all across the world, which no other country sees. You name it, we have it. We have the bear, we have the wolf, we have the wild dog, we have the tiger, we have the lion, the leopard, the clouded leopard, the snow leopard, elephants, rhinoceros. Now, how did this become possible? No other country can boast of it. I mean, even Africa doesn't have bears and wolves, but we have it all. So, इस मिट्टी में कुछ तो जादू है. You'll be astonished to know that the clash of titans happened on the Indian subcontinent, which means that two of the greatest predators to ever exist on planet Earth, which is Panthera tigris and Panthera leo, the tiger and the lion, coexisted in India for about 10,000 years. So 10,000 years of two of the top predators coexisting on the landmass is a unique phenomenon which has happened in this country. My tiger tracking days go back to my school life, and I have a very ancient, old connection with Ranthambore National Park, because when I started tracking tigers for the government, my guru was a gentleman called G.V. Reddy, who was the DFO those days of Ranthambore National Park. And Reddy साहब ने मुझे अपने हाथों से ट्रेन किया कि किस तरह से बाघ को ट्रैक किया जाता है. The tiger is a very reclusive, elusive and secretive animal. How do you get to know how many tigers are operating in the area? Now, I'm talking about the early 2000s, when we did not have so much of technology. There wasn't any camera traps, there wasn't satellite, there wasn't a lot of social media, a lot of connectivity. It was not there. It was a very basic system of actually following tigers on foot with a lut in your hand, and on the other hand you just have a bag with a pair of vernier calipers, a measuring tape, a plaster of Paris powder, and a little bit of water. And your job was to ascertain where does the tiger operate from. Like in Ranthambore, I have almost seen the entire national park on foot. You know, we used to start our day at 5 in the morning in the peak of summers and trek about 35 to 40 kilometers every day looking for signs of the tiger. Now, how do you read the forest? The forest is the temple of life. And I'd like to say that to read the forest, you primarily need to let go of your human ego. If you enter the forest as a human, the forest will not speak to you. The moment you enter the forest as a creature, the forest opens up. कहीं पे घास दबी हुई है, यहाँ से कुछ गुजर के गया होगा. कहीं पे कोई स्मेल आ रहा है आपको. Maybe the tiger is urinated there. There could be scratch marks on a certain tree, which the tiger is using for sharpening its claws. There could be marks on the soil, which the tiger is using after urination. So you start reading the forest, and gradually that the forest opens up, and other creatures of the forest also start talking to you. So you may be walking down a certain valley, and suddenly from the adjacent valley, there is a sudden call, a sambar calls. Now, what is the sambar calling for? It's probably seeing a tiger go. So when you start recognizing the alarm calls of diverse animals in the forest, the sambar, the cheetal, the langur, the monkey, they all have certain alarm calls for the predator, which is the tiger. So when you start tuning in to these alarm calls, and then you know the forest is speaking to you, and some creatures also have a separate alarm call for tiger and leopard, depending on different escape routes, like langurs. I mean, if they see a leopard, they start jumping from one tree to the other. And if they see a tiger, they go up to the topmost branches and just wait there because they know that tiger cannot climb. So animals have their own ways of communicating, and once you start reading them in the forest, that's how the forest opens up, and that's how you start tracking these most elusive creatures. So you will be amazed to know that today we talk about wildlife, wildlife, wildlife. It's a very fashionable term today, especially after the coming in of social media. I see a lot of young people carrying expensive cameras and lenses and bodies, and it's all over the place, you know. And wildlife is in vogue. What do you do? I'm a wildlife photographer. When we started tracking tigers, it wasn't like that. Wildlife was very, very few people used to talk about it. You'll be disappointed to know that the term wildlife is not something to be proud of. Wildlife is actually a conspiracy. I'll explain how. Now, in any ancient tribal culture, in Sanatana Dharma, there is nothing called wildlife. There is a term called Jivan, which is life itself. Life that naturally pertains to the planet. The sparrow that comes outside your window is also wildlife. So, why did we coin this term? We coined this term because human population, which is growing at the rate of 1 million people net every 4 days, we are adding 1 million people net to a finite planet with finite resources and finite water and finite fertility every 4 days. So we need land, we need water, we need to monopolize all land and water. How do you do that? This animal is dangerous. It's wildlife. It should be kept in a zoo. It should be only kept in a small island which we decide to call a national park. If it comes out of the national park, it's a dangerous animal. Capture it, kill it, tranquilize it. So in order to monopolize all land and water on planet Earth, we have given rise to a term called wildlife, which now we fashionably go exploring and photographing. But this land that we are on belongs to them, not to us. The planet was made for all creatures, not for Homo sapiens alone. So I'm coming to the point that you cannot just talk about wildlife and save wildlife. Wildlife cannot be saved on paper. For saving wildlife, you need to return land back to the wild. If there's no land, if there's no water, there is no meaning of the term wildlife. मैं आज के डेट में देखता हूँ कि हाथी के झुंड मेरे एरिया में कॉर्बेट नेशनल पार्क के आसपास दूर दूर से आते हैं एक घूंट पानी के लिए, नदी तक पहुंचने की कोशिश करते हैं. अगर आप लोगों ने कोसी देखा होगा, कॉर्बेट एरिया देखा होगा, एक कोसी नदी एक रामगंगा नदी है, दो नदियों पे निर्भर है पूरा कॉर्बेट इकोसिस्टम. पर कोसी नदी के दोनों तरफ हमने सिर्फ खचाखच रिजॉर्ट बना दिए हैं, फार्म हाउसेस है, रिजॉर्ट्स है, उसमें डीजे नाइट पार्टीज चलते रहते हैं, उसमें लोगों की शादी होती है. वेयर इज योर सन गेटिंग मैरिड? Oh, it's very fashionable to get married at Corbett. So the elephant herd cannot reach the water because somebody's marriage is going on over there. Because बीच में किसी की दीवार आ जाती है. From the Taj to the Radisson, every possible brand has a resort over there, adjacent to River Kosi. So the elephant herd cannot reach the water. मैंने अपनी आंखों के सामने देखा है कि हाथी के बच्चे बेहोश हो जाते हैं गर्मियों के मौसम में एक घूंट पानी के लिए. आप ये देखेंगे कि इंडियन न्यूज़ एंड मीडिया में it's a regular news that a tiger has fallen into a well, a leopard has fallen into a well. It's a very common news, and the media reports it like अरे तेंदुआ कुएं में गिर गया. अरे तेंदुआ कुएं में गिर नहीं सकता. वो आपसे 7 गुना ज़्यादा अच्छा देखता है. He can see 7 times better than you in perfectly pitch dark night. He's not falling into the well. He's entering the well because he's so desperate for a single mouthful of water that he has to dive into the well to get that water. And then he cannot come out. And then the foolish media will go and report it, a leopard has fallen into a well. So we are actually on the edge. There is nothing very bright and hunky-dory about the picture of wildlife as it pertains to planet Earth. In my lifetime, we have lost more than 50% of the planet's free-ranging wildlife. Today, if you understand biomass, biomass is the total weight of a certain species, you know. So, if you look at biomass on planet Earth, 96% of the planet's biomass is humans and livestock, which means animals that we rear to kill and eat. That comprises 96% of the planet's biomass. And the remaining 4% of the biomass comprises of all the other free-ranging animals and the heavyweights like whales, dolphins, tigers, giraffes, lions, you name it. They all come under that little 4%. 96% of the planet's biomass is we and the animals that we rear to eat, livestock and poultry. So, that is the true picture of the world today. Under these circumstances, the whole idea of rewilding came to my mind and made the perfect sense. Why? Because when I was getting posted in different national parks every year for counting tigers, essentially, I happened to pursue my profession, which is a music composer, singer in Bollywood, and thankfully, by God's grace, one of the legends of Bollywood, Gulzar Saab, he discovered me and he launched me in Bollywood, the series of very prestigious albums like Udas Pani, Raat Chand Aur Main. And this was in 2002, and I was still studying in Delhi. And thankfully, because of the way the universe conspired, I ended up doing a lot of large films in the next couple of years, starting from Hasil, Shagird, Pan Singh Tomar, Sai Your Gangster, hardcore commercial films like Welcome Back, national award-winning films like I Am Kalam. So I started doing music for a lot of large Bollywood cinema, and thankfully I could manage to get hold of a little bit of funds. And during the same time, as luck would have been, while being posted in the Corbett National Park area, I stumbled upon a hill, a barren agricultural hill, which was being used for cut-and-slash-agriculture. Which means they used to have agriculture and then burn it off, and then again farm and burn it off. So the land had completely lost all its fertility because of this destructive method of farming. And it was surrounded by pristine forest on all sides, mixed forest habitat. And on one side, a river flew. So when I happened to stumble across this land, the first thing that I note as a tracker is कि उस जमीन पे कौन-कौन से जानवरों के पंजे हैं, गाय के हैं, भैंस के हैं, बकरियों के हैं, अरे टाइगर का भी है, लेपर्ड का भी है. तो एक तरफ नदी, बीच में एग्रीकल्चरल हिल, दूसरी तरफ जंगल. It was a natural tiger-leopard corridor because the animals were crossing the land to reach the water, and there was a terrible amount of man-animal conflict because you cannot teach the tiger that you will only eat deer and not eat a cow. Similarly, you cannot teach a deer that you will only eat grass and you will not eat wheat. वो तो घास भी खाएगा, फसल भी खाएगा, कुदरती जानवर है, उसका खाना है वो. So when agricultural practices happen in intense wildlife areas, it becomes a natural source of man-animal conflict, which cannot be avoided. So I thought this land was screaming out aloud to be returned back to the wild, to be rewilded. And मेरी थोड़ी बहुत जो पूंजी थी, उसको जमा करके एक बहुत बड़ा बैंक लोन लेके मैंने धीरे-धीरे करके इस ज़मीन को खरीद ली. And my father, who's always stood by me in all my madness in my life, even he got a little worried because he said, on one hand, you have a profession in which You're a composer, you earn on a certain month and then for 4 months you don't have work. And then suddenly you get a film, you earn a little bit of money and then you don't have work. How can you invest all your savings in something as mad as this? I had only told him one thing on that day, that Baba, is zameen pe baap ka pat jaya. And I still remember the way he looked at me. He said, so, why do you want? So what? And time gave that answer. And as I started meticulously taking away the lantana, which is the weed which took over the land. So over years of taking away lantana, planting bamboo, planting fruiting trees for diverse species of birds, making small grassland habitats, and most essentially water. So through rainwater harvesting, I made some water bodies, and that water became a magnet for the surrounding wildlife. Because I know that today, पानी की इतनी भीषण किल्लत है कि एक घूंट पानी के लिए जानवर को 40-50 किलोमीटर ट्रैक करना पड़ता है just for a single mouthful of water. So जब मैंने पानी की व्यवस्था कर दी कि perennial water जो 12 महीने पानी रहे जिस तालाब में, तो उस तालाब में from the wasp to the bee to the snake to the magnificent tiger, they all started coming for a drink, and of course herds of deer. And like I always say that you do 1% for nature and nature does 99% herself. मैंने तालाब तो बनाया, लेकिन मछलियाँ, जुगनू, मेढक सब अपने आप आए वहाँ. मैंने grasslands बनाए, हिरणों के झुंड आ गए चुगने के लिए. So nature has a very interesting way of putting things together. The universe conspires, and when you say the universe conspires, it actually does conspire, because you do a little bit of effort, you will suddenly see a lot of forces of nature coming together in making it happen. And in 2015, the most miraculous thing happened, in which a completely wild tigress from the surrounding area, whom I had encountered on many nights, when I used to come and on rainy nights, in the rainy season, I cannot drive to the property बीच में नदी चल पड़ती है, एक कमर पानी होता है, उसमें गाड़ी नहीं जा पाती है, so I used to take my backpack and walk up the road. Suddenly, in the middle of the night, I would see a pair of blue-green eyes coming down. So I knew who it was, and the understanding was मैं ऊपर जा रहा हूँ और वो नीचे आ रही है, हम दोनों एक दूसरे को देख के रुक जाए, and she would take a detour and take this route to go down, and I would go up this route. So all through, while I'm walking up, I can hear chup, 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 chup. She's coming down from the right hand side. She's stepping on dry leaves to avoid me, and I can hear her pass. And when I go to the top of the hill, she's at the river, and I can see her cross the river while glancing back at me. So that was the kind of unspoken understanding between me and this tigress, and it happens with wildlife. Wildlife बहुत समझदार होता है. उसके 2 साल पश्चात उस बाघिन ने उस एरिया में बच्चे दे दिए, and the 3 cubs grew up in my area and eventually dispersed into Corbett National Park. That is when Seetavani Wildlife Reserve became famous, and a lot of international media, Discovery Channel, they all came to figure out what is happening here. I mean, how did the wild tigers come and give birth in that area? And the cubs grew up there. So she's actually the one who reposed her trust in me and made Seetavani Wildlife Reserve what it is today. I was just the gardener, and she not been there. आज आप मुझे नहीं बुलाते इस शो के लिए. ना ही मुझे स्वाभिमान भारत मिलता, ना ही मुझे वाइस प्रेसिडेंसी अवार्ड मिलता, ना ही मुझे फोर्ब्स अवार्ड मिलता. ये सारे जो इसकी प्रिकर्सर है, that is that tigress who trusted me. So that is how nature works. Nature and wildlife and my filmmaking and my music came together. Again, the universe conspired, and I was recently approached by the United Nations, UNDP, and the Government of India to make the branding film and anthem for IBCA. Now I'll tell you what IBCA is. IBCA is the International Big Cat Alliance, which is a very recent body. It is a congregation of 96 countries, which are big cat holding countries of the world. तो हमारे ऑनरेबल प्राइम मिनिस्टर साहब मोदी जी ने 150 करोड़ रुपए का ग्रांट दिया है to set up the IBCA headquarters in Delhi. Why Delhi? Because India has 5 out of the 7 big cats in the world. So we have the tiger, the lion, the leopard, the snow leopard, and now the cheetah. Apart from the puma and the jaguar, all the other 5 big cats repose in India. So the natural choice of the IBCA would be to operate from India, and the International Big Cat Alliance would be the first ever umbrella body, like the UN, to have coordination between different big cat holding countries of the world. So, poaching, technical assistance, sharing of knowledge, sharing of data. India has extremely good wildlife ethos, and we have a very good track history with big cats, you know. So to share that with the rest of the planet, we have this body now, and I meticulously composed, sang, and also shot this film, which is the IBCA anthem, which I'll present for you.
Conscience of the wild, the conscience of the wild. Guardians of the wild. Guardians of our fresh water, clean air, and global climate. International Big Cat Alliance.
Conspiring to make music, filmmaking, and wildlife conservation come together. I think we live in an era, since we've already taken over 96% of the planet's biomass. Without human intervention, I personally believe that it's going to be impossible to now save our remaining wild habitats. So, I am very closely involved with the Government of India on the very, very prestigious cheetah project. Why it's important to talk about that? Because there has been a lot of pessimism, there has been a lot of negative talking on why should we introduce cheetahs to India? We already have our share of wildlife to protect. Why don't we use the same money to protect our tigers and leopards? Why again bring in another creature? This another creature was always ours. The word cheetah is not an African word. The African word for cheetah is duma. Cheetah is a Sanskrit word meaning the spotted one. We have an excellent wildlife ethos. We are the most populated country in the world. We just have about 2.4% of the planet's land area. We have only 4.1% of the planet's fresh water, and we have more than 17% of the planet's human population. It's nothing short of a miracle that in spite of this, we have still managed to save almost all of our megafauna. With the only exception being that we lost our cheetahs to hunters in the early 1950s. It was erased to extinction, and then there is nothing more final, there is nothing more cruel than putting a full stop to billions of years of nature's work, and that is extinction. And why we need the cheetah? In today's India, there is already a dearth of land, there is a dearth of resources. Why do we need the cheetah? We need it because it is the ambassador species. It is the ambassador species of the grasslands. By saving the tiger as the umbrella species of the forest ecosystem, we automatically save the other species which live under the umbrella of the tiger, like the elephant, like the leopard, like cheetah, sambar, barking deer, a lot of other creatures which coexist with the tiger in the same ecosystem, the woodland habitat. But what about the grassland habitat? More than 90% of the grasslands of India have been converted into agriculture. What about black parks, chinkaras, Indian grey wolves, the Bengal fox, the florican, the great Indian bustard? All these creatures don't live in forests, they only live in grasslands. And the grassland is now on the verge of getting wiped out. Now if I ask, okay, would people, the wildlife conscious people of today with expensive cameras, would they go and photograph a striped hyena? Would they invest in going to a national park which has the striped hyena? The Indian striped hyena, the estimated number is less than 2,000 in the wild. It is rarer than the tiger. But do you see any wildlife photographers going and spending time and money in photographing hyenas? Nobody does that. It is trendy to photograph tigers. It is not so cool to photograph hyenas. But these animals are also on the verge of extinction. The Indian grey wolf, nobody knows the accurate number. Most of the wolf habitats, grassland habitats, have been decimated. When I was composing music for a film called Pan Singh Tomar, which got the national award, I was in the Chambal ravines for 2 months. I was studying the music of that area. And that is where I saw lone grey wolf. You know, the origination of wolves in the entire planet is from the Indian grey wolf. So Canis lupus calipus, the Indian grey wolf, is the mother of all wolves in the whole world. It spread from India. And we are not doing anything to save that animal because there is no glory, there is no charisma associated with the wolf. If we can successfully introduce the cheetah to its erstwhile domain, the grassland habitats of India, we will again have an ambassador species which has the same charisma as the tiger. The fastest moving land animal, which was always ours, we are trying everything possible to introduce it back to its erstwhile habitat. And I was approached by the NTCA to compose and again fill the branding cheetah anthem for India. So India's cheetah anthem, I'd like to play for you. It's important that we save the cheetah. Why? Because it's important to save the grey wolf, the hyena, the great Indian busker, the black buck, the chinkara, the four-horned antelope, and a whole lot of grassland species who don't have an icon, who don't have an ambassador.
चीते की रफ्तार भारत की रफ्तार, चीते की रफ्तार भारत की रफ्तार, चले हम बड़े हम चले हम है जहां देख ले, चले हम बड़े हम चले हम गौर से देख ले। हाँ, चीते की रफ्तार भारत की रफ्तार, नया भारत प्रगति और प्रकृति के साथ।
हम कोशिश कर रहे हैं, हमारी नीयत पे जाइए, कोशिश के अंजाम पे मत जाइए। I was recently at Kuno National Park. There are 16 cheetahs in the wild and there are 10 in the enclosure. And out of the 16 cheetahs, there are 3 mothers with 4 cubs each and 1 mother with 3 cubs. And these cubs are Indian-born cheetahs which are surviving here, which are hunting. They're hunting at an excellent pace, and in times to come, you will see that Govind Sagar, the Pani grasslands, Nauradehi National Park, all these areas which have been earmarked will see the return of the cheetah. And India will be the only country in the world to do the first ever transcontinental relocation of a mega carnivore. No other country has shown the balls to do it, including the whole of advanced Europe. Do you know that Europe had mega carnivores? It had bears, it had wolves. Today the largest land animal that walks most parts of Europe is just the red fox. Has any country shown the determination to bring back the wolf, to bring back the bear, which you have, the trigger-happy people have killed to extinction? They haven't. We've done it in spite of being the most populated country in the world. So as I move ahead, I'd like to tell you that we are now, in the last couple of years, the 58th Tiger Reserve of India, which is Madhav Tiger Reserve in MP, was recently inaugurated by the Honorable Prime Minister. So India is earmarking areas which still has tiger presence, and 58 tiger reserves, 14 tiger reserves have been added in the last couple of years. Why? Because tiger reserves are not just habitations of tiger. 70% of India's mighty rivers originate from tiger forest. So apart from glaciers and forests, there is no other source of fresh water on the planet. All rivers are either glacial fed or forest fed. And who's the guardian of those forests? The mighty tiger. So if we earmark areas, more and more areas as tiger reserves, we are automatically setting aside land for our freshwater reserve, for our oxygen cycle, our monsoon cycle. It is all interlinked. The tiger is the guardian of all of this. So which is why when you set aside a certain part of land which is of no tolerance to humans, where tigers can roam free, you're automatically saving your immediate future, because you know, in terms of the water situation, there are states fighting over river water, there are countries fighting over water. Water is going to become the most rare commodity for most populated countries in the immediate future, I talk about the next 5 years. So unless we conserve our fresh water, where would this huge demand of water come from? And forests are like sponges which hold on to rainwater. और फिर उस स्पंज से रिस के छोटी छोटी नदियों में पूरा साल जो है बरसात का पानी निकलता रहता है. जहाँ पे भी वन नहीं है, जंगल नहीं है, वहाँ पे आप देखेंगे जैसे बरसात होगी फ्लडिंग हो जाएगा और उसके तुरंत बाद ड्राउट्स आ जाएंगे because you are interfering with nature's sponge, the sponging mechanism of holding on to rainwater in the soil and giving it out in small amounts for the remaining 12 months so that all our rivers are flowing throughout the 12 months. Tiger forests in India are the repository of our fresh water. मैं ये कहना चाहूँगा that tigers, as I study them and follow them around, they have a very uncanny knack of surviving in human landscapes, like constantly dodging man, railway tracks, highways, factories. They have a very, very uncanny, they are blessed with something called secrecy. They don't want to be seen. Unlike our Bollywood heroes, कि अरे मेरे ऊपर कैमरा लाओ, सब लोग मुझे देखे. ये एक ऐसा हीरो है जो चाहता है कि कोई इसको ना देखे. तो आप लोग भले बड़े बड़े कैमरा लेके उसके पीछे घूमते रहते हैं, लेकिन अगर मैं टाइगर की मानसिकता देखूं, उसकी नीयत देखूं, the tiger doesn't want to be seen. He wants to hide. Unlike the flamboyant Bollywood heroes who always want cameras on them and publicity. The tiger doesn't want any publicity. The tiger only wants to survive. And the tiger wants to survive in an increasingly human-dominated landscape where he's constantly negotiating roads, highways, factories, SEZs, IT parks. You're constantly taking over the land. And I'd like to say that Ranthambore National Park is one of the most prestigious national parks in the world. It's a tiger showcase. However, is showcasing the animal enough? Showcasing an animal is not enough to save its gene pool. You cannot save megafauna unless you have corridors, unless there is exchange of genes from one to the other, from one national park to the other. The genetic elasticity of the tiger will be lost in due time. So it is of primary importance for us to now rewild animal corridors so that facilitation of animals moving from one part of the country to the other happens effortlessly. Otherwise, the genetic elasticity of the animal will shrink. Can you have 30-40 people living in a single building, breeding with each other, giving rise to children to eternity? It doesn't happen. There will be inbreeding, there will be genetic weaknesses, there will be disease, there will be epidemics. The same applies to the tiger and the lion and the leopard and all the free-ranging fauna of India. We need to rewild. Now, I'm not asking that save all your money and buy land for the tiger. It's not possible for most people. I did not marry, I don't have kids. I could do it, but it's not possible for most people. However, rewilding can happen at a much smaller stage also. For example, if you have a garden in your house, what is the typical colonial hangover we have? We want green grass, we want a lawn, we want some pots of roses. And we want to show our guests, so we have a beautiful garden. Look at the season flowers growing here. The roses, the grass, the green grass. Do you know that the green grass, the lawn, is of absolutely no use to nature? It is a water-sucking giant. Why don't you let the grasses grow wild? If you let the grass grow wild, you'll see the thistle of the grass has seeds, which tiny birds feed on. The finches, the sparrows, they come and feed on those seeds which the grass grows on its thistle. But before the grass can grow to that length, you're already mowing it off to keep a clean lawn. You want a swimming pool? Yeah, of course you want a swimming pool. In an area like this where there is so much of water crisis, where animals cannot get a drink of water, we want swimming pools. So we have to make such choices in which we are not depleting resources which pertain to wildlife. We need to let our gardens grow wild and free. Let the bees come, let the wasps come, let the insects come, let the pollinators come, let the birds use it. Let smaller creatures use your land, because when you bought that land, you paid a price to other humans. So you have a right to say that other humans will not step on this land. But do you have a right to say that no other animal will come onto this land? Because I haven't paid a penny to the other animal while buying this land. So other animals have a right to use that land. Let them use that land, rewild. Even if it's a small patch of garden, rewild, let it grow wild. Let nature do its work. Do not crop trees and make them circular, like Singapore and Dubai does. That is not the ethos of India. Do not plant palm trees outside our airport to make it look like Dubai airport. We are not Dubai. We have banyans, we have peepals, we have ficus, we have huge trees, magnificent trees which feed our wildlife, our birds, our animals. So let us boast our biodiversity, our flora and fauna, and let us rewild at whatever level we can so that we give nature a fighting chance. I'll end today's discussion with a song which I composed long back for the government. It's a song which basically encompasses what I just said in very simple words. क्योंकि जब आप गाँव वालों से बात करते हैं उनको बहुत हाई फाई भाषा समझ में नहीं आती है। आपको ये समझाना पड़ता है कि भैया टाइगर को क्यों बचाना है, टाइगर तो आके मेरे गाय को खा रहा है, मेरी बकरी को खा रहा है, क्यों बचाऊं मैं इसको, ये तो मार रहा है सबको। तो गाँव वालों से जब बात करते हैं हम कॉन्जर्वेशन की तो बहुत ही सहज लहजे में बात करनी पड़ती है कि भैया टाइगर नेशनल एनिमल, अरे नेशनल एनिमल है तो क्या मेरा क्या फर्क पड़ता है, टाइगर के रहने से आपको क्या फायदा है ये समझाना पड़ता है। और उस दौरान जो है एक बहुत सिंपल सा गाना मैंने बनाया था, I'll play that song for you. It goes like this. जंगल है, जंगल से बारिश, बारिश से नदियाँ, नदियों से है हरियाली, टाइगर्स है तो हम भी हैं, तुम भी हो। So this was a song, which was a tiger anthem, which was made essentially for people who constantly ask us why save the tigers. Using this podium for wildlife conservation, I'd like to extend my thanks to Royal Ranthambore who have facilitated this, and I'd like more and more corporates to get involved in raw conservation. That's a need of the hour. Royal Ranthambore is also developing a very interesting thing called the limited edition pack, and it is called the Finest Tiger of India series. This is a series which will celebrate the famous tigers of India, from diverse tiger reserves, the tigers which have been the blue-eyed tigers. Every photographer wanted to photograph. Tigers are enigmatic creatures, they have their own journeys. You know, they have enigmatic lives. When they eat today, they don't know कि अगला खाना कब मिलेगा. हमारी तरह नहीं है कि दिन में 4 बार प्लेट पे खाना आ रहा है. एक शिकार मिला, अगला शिकार कब मिलेगा पता नहीं है. 25% is the overall success ratio of a tiger. 75% times he goes hungry. किसी पानी के पास जाके पंखे चाट के पानी पी के सो जाता है भूखा, फिर अपना एनर्जी स्टोर करता है कि अगले शिकार के लिए. 3-4 बार उसके शिकार फेल हो जाए तो मृत्यु की कगार पे चला जाता है टाइगर. सो यू नो इट्स वेरी डिफिकल्ट टू सर्वाइव इन द वाइल्ड. सो इंडिया हैज हैड सम वेरी फाइन इंडिविजुअल टाइगर्स व्हिच हैव हैड देयर ओन लेगेसीज, देयर ओन जर्नीज, देयर ओन स्टोरीज. सो दिस सीरीज इज गोइंग टू बी celebrating the finest tigers of India. But I'd like everybody here to not obsess with just the tiger. You know, of course the tiger is an enigmatic animal. It's a perfect blueprint of evolution. It is the Vahana of goddess Durga, which protects virtue and destroys evil. Evil in terms of human greed. So let's hope that we can make this ancient warrior reclaim its erstwhile domain, protect our rivers, our water, our monsoon cycle, and our immediate future, and save us from human greed. Thank you.